So, good afternoon and welcome to our favorite event this year, the ICNC. And yeah, thanks to Christian and the entire Hubcheck team for making this happen also in that pretty cool location this year. And this year is even more exciting for us than ever before. You know why? Do you remember the topic of last year? Last year, it was all about the path to profitability. And I think the focus on profitability is still right. However, we ask the question to ourselves, what is profitability without availability? And the struggle might be even harder than today. And that is why we are on stage. We have been here last year and we are here this year, because availability is not a side topic anymore. It's one of the hottest topics in the industry. For you, you have absolutely nothing to do. If you want to have the presentation, please reach us out. You could also come to our booth, and we are happy to guide you through the details. But first things first, let's introduce ourselves. My name is Stefan, and I started in mobility in 2009, where the landscape looked really quite different. I was involved in the first development of the first AC charger, one of the first in Germany, and we have been so proud to put it on the road. And today I'm the CEO of EverCharge, and my mission is that people can rely on charging sessions, and I mean every charging sessions. Next to me, my dear fellow Alex, and he's not a rookie in the e-mobility business neither, right?
Hi everyone, my name is Alex and I'm taking care of all sales and marketing activities at EverCharge. And together with Stefan, we have quite the same origins. So I was also there many years ago, over 10 years ago, taking care of some groundwork in mobility. But today we are not here to read out our CVs because we have more interesting stuff to tell.
Yeah, exactly. And let's come to the exciting stuff, what we have planned for today. First is the charger angst a real thing, or is it invented by some Germans? And second thing is, we really go down along the heart of operations and not only scratch on the surface. And we have an honest view on operations and also what we have learned so far. And the last point, or the next point, is we have a special guest on stage. We're super excited to welcome him. We will introduce him later. And last but not least, for everybody who loves technology and impact on business cases, we follow the view of a CFO on availability. Since the last ICNC, where we have been the first time, it happened a lot. And with a lot, I mean the sheer boost of charging infrastructure build-up. And that is a great achievement for every CPO and hardware manufacturer. And at the same time, it's also a huge step for the entire industry. And we all know the more infrastructure, the better. However, I want to quote a superhero for this, and he said, with great networks comes great responsibility. He said it, I think, something like that, but I'm not really sure about it. But, to be honest, we have a great responsibility towards two customer groups, the EV driver and the investors. And we have to demonstrate that things work. Neither will continue the journey with us. And that, when we want to achieve the growth of the infrastructure, that all relies on trust. When I talked about availability, I always remember a phrase of Adam Mulvey, and I'm laughing because I met him a couple of minutes before, and he brought it really to the point. He said charging has to become boring. And he's absolutely right, so boring that it's something natural, it just works. But the reality is that our future customers and people who want to buy an electric vehicle think too much about charging. And before they buy a vehicle, the top reasons are range anxiety. But good thing is, it's less than the year before. And no wonder, because in all segments there are enough cars available. And reliability is the next top topic, and it's increasing. So the question is now, when we reflect that a little bit, does all the people do not know what they are talking about before they buy an electric vehicle? Or is it some irrational fear? You might have all electric vehicles and you are very experienced drivers. And let's have some first-hand insights from you. We have prepared a live poll. Presentation, you want to switch?
Yeah, so
Good. Please scan the QR code or go to menti.com, and I will read out the 2 questions.
So then we have a couple of questions for you, and
I think have you already scanned, or should we go back?
Then
okay,
let's go back. Then scan. Let's display the QR code once again, because we have 2 little questions for you. We were a bit too quick on that one. Good.
Ich mach's.
So
Ich mach's. Just raise your hand if you're ready, then I read out, or we started. Ready? Yeah. First rows are also ready? Then let's start with a question. I am reading out the 2 questions. Oops.
Okay. Good. That are the things that can happen. Yeah, that's the type of connection issues that you might have also with certain chargers, but now we reload and we have our first question.
So, how often have you experienced challenges in starting the session? Okay, half of it, more than half, rarely, then followed very often. Okay, but majority have a lot of that things with starting charging session. Let's come to the second question. How often have you experienced challenges in unsuccessful charging sessions? Sorry. Rarely is at the top and then followed by often. So majority is rarely. So we are in the room are all experienced drivers, and now the question is, how is average Joe thinking about it, who is driving an electric vehicle? So hold on. Yeah. So what is different with average Joe? And only 13% of the drivers do not have a problem at all. Only 30%. And when we compare it with iPhones we had before, that would mean that you can only 10% can do proper calls with iPhones. And that is a little bit shocking me. So the main reason is starting a session, it's charging behavior, and it's unsuccessful sessions. And the thing is that really the situation we find ourselves in the industry? Let's change the perspective and look at the CPOs. And Alex, you have done some calculations on the CPO side.
Yeah, indeed. So we know that it is a sensible topic. And we did some number crunching on that and wanted to have a look on how uptimes look in Europe. What we did is we gathered data from CPOs all over Europe. And to make it a bit more interesting, we looked at DC networks, as DC networks are, in terms of investments and revenues, quite interesting. what we see here, I think it's obvious for you all, that we have quite good values of uptime if we look at OCPI data. And that tells us that there are many with a good value of 99, 98%. Some lag behind. But is that the honest view? I think for us as drivers, and ultimately also for the CPOs, maybe not uptime is everything that counts. And especially for that, we have a quote from a very experienced, very qualified source. And actually, David Beckham says that uptime is not everything that matters. I don't know if he's an expert, but if he's telling us so, then maybe he's right. I don't know. No, honestly. Speaking of being honest, we see that for those of you who didn't make so good experience at the charger, know that uptime is not equal to availability. Because in the end, successful charging sessions are counting. And from values of OCPI, where we saw 99%, 95% plus, much less is ending up in a successful charging session. I think that counts for the CPO in his business case. And we have two sources here. On the left, you see from P3 Automotive, who did over 5,200 chargers all over Europe, and they have that data. And on the right, you see from our database, before customers start to use EverCharge, how their ratio of successful and unsuccessful sessions look like. And that is quite alarming to us, because it means that over 20%, nearly 1/4 of charging sessions are not successful. And we think that's not sustainable for the business case in the end. But what's the alternative? We heard a quote from BlackRock this year in UK, and it seems like you don't get too many chances to convince a driver to contribute to your utilization. Actually, you have one chance to lose or win a customer. And that's why we need some improvement. And speaking of improvements, we know that there's one team within a company who has the power to change things for the better. And let's have a look at those operations teams, how they fight their daily work towards a better availability. For doing so, we want to have an authentic view on the situation. And we did many interviews, we crunched much data, and we hope that we brought something to you today that is really an add-on to your knowledge base. And when we speak about big charging networks, we also have to speak about the pile of cases that arise from there. And maybe some of the operators feel like this picture is showing that. But let's maybe have a look at how things really run in operations. And the thing is that the charging network is growing, but the team isn't. That you try to help yourself with means which are not worth a human doing it. That the number of tickets, the sheer number of tickets, is a bit like in the picture before. And the root cause analysis is a hard and bumpy road and has many manual tasks. And in the end, we see that many just resign and send out the field service to look after the charger on site. And we think there needs to be something different. And we see that also in the times which are used to solve incidents. And we have an exemplary process, which is true for, as an average for some CPOs, that you need up to 9 days from the first customer calls to the charger is running again. And 9 days are simply too long. 9 days without generating revenue. So what would we do now? Maybe hire more people? And hiring more people into the operations teams, that is maybe a thought that is quite obvious in the first place, but we also had our research on that one. And we see that already today, almost 1/4 of people in CPO organizations work already in the operations department, and that's quite significant. And if we compare it to the revenue that the organization is making, it is already 35 to 42% that if you take the ratio of costs and revenue, and that's quite a lot. So maybe hiring more people into the team wouldn't do the trick. So maybe you think, okay, maybe not internally, but externally. And maybe you need to book better service plans at your hardware manufacturer. Maybe you need stricter SLAs with your field service. Let's have a look at it. And the insights that we gained there saw that if you pile up your CPO charge, so everything what you spend on rent, on HR, and so on and so forth, your reactive maintenance costs and your planned maintenance costs, those are so high, they exceed, in many cases, the figures which are in the business cases. So you're spending already more than you wanted to spend. And that's why we think that that is maybe a dead end as well. Let's summarize a little bit at that moment. So we know that there won't be less work. That's an illusion. That the time to fix is eating up quite a lot of time already, and it will be worse with new protocols, because new protocols, which are beyond OSPP 1.6, are even more complex. Hiring more staff wouldn't be so funny for your business case, and you're spending maybe too much on OPEX already. And for us, it's a bit like, it seems to be like we need to do more with less. And that's not a reason to panic, but maybe just structure it a little bit. Our approach would be, we need to solve issues quicker, we need to prevent new issues from happening, and maybe we need also to organize a little bit differently. Because we are today at the ICNC, and the ICNC is all about the newest technology. But often in organizations, we also have to think about how to handle that technology properly and how to use it in a best way.
So where to start? I think at the beginning, it's helpful to look at two things. What are the most common symptoms and what are the tools we use to solve them? I think the symptoms are so common that I do not have to explain anymore. But it's getting interesting on the right-hand side. And we see that operators struggle with issues to improve availability. And we observing things like they're hunting ghosts, so things are popping up which are not really relevant. They're somewhere lost in details. You have to speak OCPP as a second language. And when you want to see correlations, it's mostly on very experienced level where you can see it. And that is not satisfying for the operator. And therefore, we started to look at AI a couple of years ago. And AI is a buzzword nowadays, but especially machine learning and neural networks can help in e-mobility. And that is more than creating nice cat pictures. And also the speed of the development of AI is incredible. When we look, for example, at language models, how they have improved the last 24 months, it's clear that in some cases, they are such a high level that they can partly replace a hotline. And also the skills are increasing for some use cases that we see that the impact where AI can help we see. And that doesn't mean, so we don't see for e-mobility that we have to replace our man-force, but you are able to manage an increased infrastructure with the same team size. But coming back to the e-mobility business, and we find out that AI helped in especially 3 ways. And that is the statistical pattern recognition out of the huge amount of data. It's a context-based pattern recognition, so patterns which are caused with several events that you can also use for prediction. And it's automation of the decision-making, so let the machine decide on which events, for example, a restart is helpful. And compared to the tools which are on the market, like ChatGPT is, that's public available. And you have to train the AI with non-public data to make it clear. To make really the difference and to unlock the full potential, you have to train the AI with your own data. And before we go in customer cases and business cases, let's compare it to have a picture in mind with methods we are using. And that's surprisingly very close to the medical sector. First is a behavior analysis. So you analyze the behavior, or what is a normal behavior compared to a current situation. We use something like a blood picture, so little indicators that shows that it's going in the wrong direction, and you can take action before the patient is in a bad condition. And we have something like medication, where we call it painkillers. And in the following use cases, you will see exactly this. Our charging model is analyzing the behavior of the charger. Our health index is indicating and predicting things in a very early stage. And the medication, that's the painkillers, we call healing automation. So hopefully you are ready now for the use cases. Let's jump in first use cases, the behavior analysis, so making the inconspicuous visible. We have brought 2 cases to Berlin, and one remark before. We show that cases with the timeline view. That's one feature of our web app, because that's easy to understand the correlations, but we have much more other things. And the cases are all real customer cases, but anonymized. So let's jump in the first case. At that time, we see an AC charger, and you see the purple columns that are regular charging sessions. We see that a really long time, there are a lot of regular charging sessions, and suddenly there's no regular charging session. There's no error and no downtime of the charger, which indicates the lines below. And the question is now, how does AI help in this case? And the AI learned what is the normal behavior, the usual behavior per outlet over the weeks. And every deviation out of that normal behavior, our so-called charging model indicates. And that are normally cases which are under the radar, because they're so hard to detect when you're not looking at the charger the whole time. And that is also what we get as a feedback from operator. That is good, and we detect this. And one other thing is, last week we onboarded a customer, and we found 3 of that kind of cases where they said, wow, there hasn't been a session since 3 weeks. The reason for that was a buggy firmware, by the way. We have another charger that's this time a DC charger. And we also see in the purple columns, there are a lot of charging sessions, sometimes more, sometimes less. And there's some minor error, but it's nothing critical or what we have to consider. And then we have a short period with unsuccessful and successful charging sessions, and then sudden death. And what also indicates the line below. And again, the AI learned what patterns are okay and which are not. And the AI found things what are not so obviously visible and what you not can see just relying on an error code. That has been the 2 examples, and I'm the tech guy and doing the fancy stuff, and Alex always asks, what's the impact on the customer? And Alex, what's the impact on the KPIs on that?
So ultimately, it's all about making it visible. It's not about only fancy technology, as Stefan mentioned, and what we found out, or the question is, how often does the charging model really find abnormal behavior? And for that, we took a customer case with 6,000 chargers, and it was quite astounding for us that for 20% of the outlets, we found abnormal behavior. And to be precise, that in a time window of 2 weeks alone that we looked at before coming here to Berlin, over 80% of those that we saw had no critical issues, no error messages, but still charging was not possible through the customer. And that's what counts in the end. And that is also the power of AI that can be distributed.
Let's come to the second case. That is our blood picture, and we call it health index. And we also brought 2 live customer examples with us. So the first example is customer reported one day that the cable is damaged. When we haven't, that doesn't sound good anyhow, but when we have seen that on site, it's a little bit shocking because parts of the housing has been destroyed. And how does that look in EverCharge? So we see on the 7th of June, the customer reported that issue. And we also see that 1 week later, a ticket has issued that the service technician went out or goes out. And the main thing is that our health index detects that issue 4 days before a customer noticed that, based on the OCPP communication. And that saves you a lot of trouble and unsatisfied customer when you can take the actions and have enough time to take the actions before the customer calls. The next example is an AC charger this time. And customer arrived at the AC charger, but unfortunately, charging was not possible. He didn't report that to the hotline and went to another charger. And for CPOs, again, lost revenues. How does it look like in EverCharge? We see now that's an AC charger with 2 connectors. On the top, you see connector 1, and on the second line, that's connector 2. We see on connector 1 a huge charging gap. And at connector 2, we see some sessions, but then also a huge charging gap. What has happened? It was an issue with a connection issue between the master-slave connector. But the thing is, EverCharge detected that 9 days before a service was issued and sent out. And I think, again, the audience wants to know what's the impact on that.
So, second summary. And that time, it's about prediction. So, how often does this health index, how we call it, predicts outages? And we see that overall, we can see things up to 1 week in advance. But most common, we are, let's say, 3 days ahead of the incident ticket. That's what we saw in retrospective. And we see that we are 40% accurate. Now you might think, okay, why just 40%? We still see plenty of issues which are simply not foreseeable. But in the end, as a CPO, knowing for 40% of the cases that there's something coming, wouldn't that be nice? And we also get a second question, again and again. What about false alarms? Because prediction, that's a sensible topic. We are well aware of that, and we have a solution approach for it, and we call it baselines. Baselines is adapting the sensitivity, how it reacts to certain charger models and to certain chargers. And that is the key for us, how to keep the false alarms below 10%. And we have a third story.
That was third story. That is about the medication, the painkillers. We call it healing automation. I would like to do a different approach to the cases before. And because we have learned that a sustainable solution is not always in sight for issues. And that can have many root causes. And therefore, we provide something like automatic healing, a painkiller. It not always cure, but gives you peace of mind. And let's come to another example, and that is also an AC charger this time. And the customer arrived at that AC charger and wanted to establish a charging session, but without success. It was an error message. He didn't call the hotline, but he tried the second outlet with success. So now let's have a look how that, where in this case, automatic healing helps. And that again we see in that graph, first outlet, second outlet, and we see on the bottom authentication. So first authentication, charging was not possible. That was what we have heard from the customer. Then he tried a second authentication and charging has been possible. Now every judge knows that for this hardware type and this kind of error had been a ground fault error, a restart could be helpful. And we try to do a restart, but without success because there was an active charging session. But every judge not giving up, and we tried a second restart after the charging session with success. And what we see is on the top right side that there is later on an active normal charging session. And that clearly shows that could be really a challenge for an operator to do a restart in such a short time frame. But for a machine, it's not a challenge. I think, again, they're expecting some KPIs, Alex.
So, last but not least, let's see how often that helps, really. And for the automated healing, our painkillers, we see that we can fix up to 72% of issues. And we just wanted to trigger you, because I know what you think, that's quite a lot. And yes, depending on the hardware type and the issue, that number is highly deviating one from each other. But still, there are so many cases which are especially software related, which you can heal with or cure with a painkiller. And you can keep the charger alive until maybe a new firmware is available. And now, enough of pretty plots. Now we have a guest on stage. And we are quite happy about that he spares some of his valuable time. And his organization is a front runner of how to organize operations, how to apply different technologies, and not only a technology, but to make it work in the organization. So, ladies and gentlemen, give big hands for Malte Sönnigsen from GP2 Connect. Hey, Malte.
Hi.
You might switch on, yeah.
So hopefully you can hear me. That's great. So thanks for the introduction. I'm feeling a little bit like a VIP today, but I'm just the head of digitalization. So, but I'm happy to be here and tell you something about why we are looking at EverCharge, or what we have done and what are our main topics. So maybe just a few words about me and a few words about GP2 Connect, so that you get a better idea who we are, who I am, and why I'm here today. So personally, or for us, digitalization is one of the main pillars if we are talking about future technologies, or if you're looking into the future of charging. At the one hand, if we want to scale our business in the most efficient way, for sure digitalization is one of the main topics for it. Especially if you're talking about operating or charge point operating, then for sure we are talking about efficiency, we are talking about scalability, and we are looking always into new use cases. And this comes because we as GPG Connect are not only working in one market, we are in several market activities. We have activities in several markets, beginning from AC fleet customers over utilities companies. We have gas stations owners. We also have nowadays a footprint in the heavy-duty industry. So a lot of different use cases and therefore a lot of different requirements, especially if you're talking about operations. Furthermore, we call it 360 degrees approach, meaning we are starting with talking to our customers really in early stages. So we are offering consulting services, we are doing the location planning, we are doing the technical planning, and for sure, we're setting up the charging sites with the right products, and then take it over to the operation. And if you're talking about operation, we differentiate in two kind of areas. At the one hand, we have the technical operations, where we are using already EverCharge. And at the other hand, we have the commercial operation, where we are using our charging backbone system. And commercial includes, of course, pricing, billing, roaming, but also topics like administration of the charge points. So that's where we are coming, and that's why digitalization is such a big deal for us. And digitalization, that's why I'm here today, also includes our charge point backbone architecture and strategy. And we are mostly talking about a charging backbone because we are not just talking about that's better. We are not just looking at one charge point management system. Of course, we do have a central charge point management system, but we also have other solutions beside of this charge point management system, like the EverCharge tool for our technical operation.
Maybe to tap into your knowledge, Malte, for the audience, it would be quite interesting to know why and how in the first place did you think, or GPG Connect thought about a separate implementation, a separate tool for technical operations?
I think it starts around about 1 year ago when we was looking into our existing charge point management system and was asking us, what do we need for the future? What do we need to bring the most benefit to our customers? And what kind of solutions do we need? At the one hand, for sure, we started with evaluation of different charge point management system. We also choose a new one and started the migration to it. So that is one outcome. At the other hand, and this matched to the points you have pointed out today. On the other hand, we was asking ourselves how we could support our technical operations in the best way and our operators. Because scaling does not work if you just double the employees for doubling the charge points. That is not what we wanted to do if you're talking about scaling and efficiency of charge point operations. Currently, we do have, I think, above 2,500 charge points in operation in different use cases and different markets, and that was why we was looking into this topic. And from our perspective, in a more and more major market, service and operation is getting more and more important for our customers, for the users of the charge points, and of course for our business. So that is why we started with the process and was looking into this topic. And furthermore, and this I think is one of the really important topics, is that if you start with error analysis, and I think most of you would know it and you pointed it out, you need a lot of different skills. You need to understand OCPP, you need to understand network protocols, sometimes you need a little bit more IT skills for debugging and so on. So, and this takes time for the knowledge transfer, but also takes time in the analysis process. So that's why we started with it.
Okay, so that was the starting point. But maybe could you give insights of what were you looking for specifically when you were looking for a solution at the market?
Yeah, maybe from the market perspective and the use case perspective. If we are talking about fleet customers, typical fleet customers who have, I don't know, 10 or 20 AC charge points, they are using it for their own company fleet, but also for the employees' cars, then the customer is looking for a cost-efficient operation of his charge points. He don't want to make money with it. He's just looking for a cost-efficient operation. But then if you're talking to an investor or somebody who wants to set up DC public charging, he is always looking for how can I maximize the energy volume I could sell at the charge point. And maybe another example, if you're talking to the heavy-duty industry or to a local installation or looking for a local installation for heavy duties, then you're looking on the question, how can I take care that on the point or when somebody is coming for charging, that the charging station would be online because they're planning with it, they have their transportation management system, and they're looking for and say, okay, I come at, I don't know, 2 p.m. and then the station must be online and must be usable. So a lot of different questions, but always you wanted to operate in the most efficient way, or we wanted to operate in the most efficient way, and that is, yeah, what I think some of the benefits we was looking for. And additional, we was thinking about new business model for us, because normally the case is that you wanted to get the charge point into your backend, into your CPMS, and then you're doing the operation of it. We was asking ourselves, okay, what can we do if we have a customer or if we have a partner or somebody else who brings his own charge point management system with? We don't want to get access to their charge point management system because then we need knowledge in all different charge point management systems out there. So that was not our case. That is why our idea was to set up or to find a standalone system for the technical operation and offer this technical operation as a service also to customer who already have the charge point system. So, and this also helps regarding topics like data privacy and so on, because from a technical operator side, you don't need access to the customer data, you don't need access to EMP information and so on, so you just see the technical side.
Okay, so efficiency played a role, maybe also the customer relationship played a role, but maybe you can just point out, you had some solutions at hand, and why to choose a separate solution at all?
Yeah, that is what I mentioned. I think the main point was that we had the case that if a customer brings his own charge point management system, we wanted to offer the technical operation service. So that is why we implemented an architecture by using an OCPP broker between the charge point and the charge point management system. And on top, we are using EverCharge for the technical operation. So I think this is the main reason why we choose a standalone system for operation of the technical service.
And now, some months went by, and maybe could you give us 3 or 4 outcomes? So what comes to the top of your head, what EverCharge brought to you after the couple of months?
Operation matters, I would say. Really, if you're talking to customers and we're getting feedback, it's really important to think about how to do it in a good way in the future. And this especially helps in the sales process. If you're talking with customers and we are talking to them and saying, okay, we have a different or a separated software for operation. I think second topic would be, or point would be that we efficiency is there. Yeah, by using EverCharge, our technical operators gives us the feedback that it works, that helps them to get an overview, to see really fast where should I look at which station, and to have always the overview about also if you have a lot of different use cases, I think. Third point would be integration is not the topic. I think it's mostly like in all other IT projects. If you wanted to integrate a new software, the pain or the effort comes not from the technology. Normally, the effort and the pain comes from the process side, and that is of course also by using EverCharge. You have to think about how to improve your own processes, how to use the tool in the right way, and to integrate it in the best way in a daily work process, I would guess. And last point, we would go on with it. of course.
Really good. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Malte.
You're
That was
welcome.
very valuable. Give a big applause to Malte. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, and last chapter for today, and for all the tech guys, we also have to have the CFO view for maybe 1 or 2 minutes. And that is also a thing that matters to us most. And when we also see quotes from leaders from CPO organizations, we see that they say that operations costs rise, they increase, and that the reactive costs are the highest cost that they have. And on top of that, they have opportunity costs. So if a customer is not satisfied with the experience, he won't come back. And so you have to act on that one. And the CFO would say, it's easy. You need to spend less, and you have to make the charger run better. And yeah, that's maybe complicated, but maybe let's have our heads around it. Just for a recap, we see that spending externally more is maybe not the approach that we are looking at. But there's, in that kind of chart, one category, the reactive maintenance costs. And that is something that we as EverCharge, we can influence. And all other buckets which contribute to the OPEX are also important. But let's have a look and focus on reactive maintenance costs. And you maybe remember that we said that the solving incidents process takes up to 9 days. 9 days, which is fairly too long for a charger not to run. And we detailed that out, and that is a process exemplary from a couple of CPOs, where you start with the customer calling the hotline, then it's getting processed in the hotline center, then it goes to the CPO for analysis, and so on and so forth. And that's how you spend up to 9 days. But with our solution approach, you can save, especially in the first part of the process, massively on time. So you can predict failures before they happen, so you don't have to start that process, or you can solve it quicker because you get clear indicators. You get mapped data, so you have a clear recommendation out of the system what to do. And then you get to a solution much quicker because you don't have to read cryptic code, but you have the evaluated data at your fingertips. And that's how we save up to 2 days in the process. And you remember what we told at the beginning. Successful charging sessions are the measure that counts. And we know that every 4th session, almost, is failing. And we track that down also with our customers. And we are so happy and so proud that month over month, the successful charging sessions improved with our customers. And we were so proud that one of our customers hit 92.5% of successful charging sessions. And if we compare all our customers, you see the graph, but what is mind-boggling is that with every percent compared to your size of your network and your utilization, every percent is worth 700,000 to €1 million of gross margin for every percent yearly. And now you know why we are so obsessed on working on successful charging sessions and availability. Because we are EverCharge and we think that everybody deserves a successful charging session. And we want to bring operations on a new level, but we are not the next CPMS. We are like an energy drink to the e-mobility platforms which you have today. An add-on for your operations where you can keep your main system and you have an add-on especially for operations. And maybe at this end of the presentation, it's quite easy to summarize because we do basically 4 jobs. We identify and unify failure information and make it visible in a nice graphical way. But we go far beyond a Power BI or Grafana or any other plot producing tool, because we also connect it to field experience, and we try also to connect the dots and get behind the meaning of data. So with things like machine learning, you get solutions out like the charging model, which Stefan presented, where nothing is wrong with the charger, but still you cannot charge. With prediction, we can, with the power of AI, predict, as we told, up to 1 week in advance if something is going south. And that's quite valuable for you. And wouldn't it be nice if you know that before your customer calls? And we take care of automation. Because in the end, it is, as Malte said, it's all about efficiency. And efficiency is only possible if we don't do everything manually. We have to automate in our industry. And we do that in 2 ways today. We do that in one way where we have our painkillers, our healing automation, and simply taking care of jobs which you don't want to take care of manually, and also incident ticket automation. So we all know how I don't know, it's not big fun to write incident tickets, and the quality is rather doubtful. And therefore, if we know that there's an obvious case, we can also generate the tickets and push it to the field service that they start to work right away. For that, we have 4 products. We have our product board for CPOs, which is the full-fledged solution, and we are happy to tell you more about it at our booth. And we have, since 2 weeks, also Board Start, where if you don't have OSPP information at your fingertips, you can start with OSPI and start to use our solution. We have for manufacturers, new on board, Board Factory, because as a manufacturer, you can also then monitor the complete fleet of chargers which you roll out to customers if you have a second SIM card in it, and optimize it. Plus, you can add up new service products and generate more revenue towards your customer, because you have things like predictive maintenance and you solve things more efficient in a better way. And we have also everything for our partners, for CPMS, so for platform providers, as an API. And we are also proud to work already with a couple of platform providers like Valence, like Charge Cloud, like Virta, and like today announced Evesto. And they all take our solution and use it to make operations better. And maybe the last words is up to you, Stefan.
Thank you. Some closing words from my side. I think we can end charger angst via measuring the real availability with successful charging sessions, via efficient operation, what Malte said, with leverage data to their needs, and with AI to detect things before a customer complains. And we as EverCharge, we contribute our part to it. So thank you for listening to the presentation, and let's end the charger angst together.
Like when the ticket comes in, you guys are faster than the ticket. Like the customer calls in for a ticket, the poll doesn't work, and you guys are faster than that. But what is the number of what we do in our company is that we look at the last valid session, and from that on, we try to be faster. So are you guys, like when you do your health index, when it drops, does it drop on the same day as the last valid session, a few days after that, or even before that?
Thanks for your question. The health index normally drops before a charging is not possible. And there are some cases where is it like that, but we also know that things can happen suddenly. I mean, then it goes down directly. But normally it's a continuous decreasing, and then you can take actions. And ticketing, so automated ticketing, that is, we are doing event-based. So there are some couple of events where you know when you have to send out a service technicians, we can automate that. Yeah.
So thank you. As you mentioned, you don't want to be the next CPMS. We should imagine EverCharge as energy drink for companies, CPOs or MSPs like that. Which time of use would you recommend for these companies to get results in the operations?
Yeah. So what we do mostly is, because that's like a new type of software maybe, which you would use. And usually we run 6 months of a trial period, also comparing maybe a group which is monitored by EverCharge to a group which is not monitored by EverCharge to have a clear KPI-based comparison. And 6 months is, for the amount of data, a good thing. Plus also, as we learned, it's not about the technology only, but also individuals getting to use it. And I think if you use it on the first day, yeah, maybe you have to get used to it. But maybe after 1 month or 2 months, you're more in a pro mode, and therefore 6 months is quite a good figure for us.
Yeah. Doing some steps now.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that was an amazing presentation. I work for a company called Uberall here in Germany. We help CPOs, their stations get found, and we also manage reputation. So seeing what you're referring to about sort of charger reliability is obviously critically important for CPOs, but even more so, like you mentioned, for users. As a user myself of EV chargers, in the UK, I've had a lot of reliability issues. A lot of the time, reliability isn't just a matter of a session failing or stopping. There are a lot of conversations about derating, and I'm wondering how you can use sort of predictive analytics to sort of solve that. I'm thinking maybe monitoring sort of on average that the session time has decreased rapidly because people have decided, actually, I'm going to move to the other charger or somewhere else, or quite the opposite, that it's taking longer because it's providing half their power output and someone's just decided to just go and have a meal or whatever. And I'm assuming that will probably predict later on a failure as well. And I was looking for it in a presentation, you may have mentioned it, but forgive me if you have already, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's a quite good topic, and we do it like a lot with that. And we had, for example, charger models which were just capable to do 30 kilowatt. But our system is monitoring that, and that's also an anomaly which we can detect. And I mean, the model knows it after 2 weeks because he has to learn it. That is unusual behavior. But we also have other features when you know, okay, that things have popped up now for 3 chargers and I want to monitor it. You can also set an incident alerting, especially for you, and you alert it per email. But that are current cases that we don't see the max power, especially at DC chargers. Yeah, thank you.
Another question.
Hi, Thomas from Vattenfall InCharge. How are you able to close the loop at the end from identifying a problem, but also knowing what is the solution, and then also, I think, proposing the solution? Do you need to change the connector, or what is do you need to send maintenance? What would they need to do or bring? Because that probably requires some kind of different data that's more from the operations organization flowing back in. Is that already part of the system, or is that a next gen that you can work on?
That is a super cool question. That is indeed something we are working on, because the level of operators are not always experienced, and you also want to have one who is not an expert on things, a clear recommendation what to do. And the same also with the field service. When the field service is going out, I mean, they're measuring everything in the charger, and that is also with the automated incident management that we send standardized tickets and say, okay, that's this error code or cable error is super clear what to do to send out also that messages and not only sentence lines what the customer reported.
Do you get back into the system what actually helped the system? What actually then did you actually need to change the cable or something? Do you get that back in, or?
Not yet, but we're working on that. Yes. Any other question? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Jasper. I'm from Total Energies. I thought it was really interesting you have software for charger manufacturers as well. Because as a CPO, we sometimes think the problem is the charger manufacturer as well. Whose responsibility do you think it is to use this type of software to actually solve these technical problems? Because it could be on both sides. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
You're totally right. And I think the answer is it's depending on the depth of, let's say, technology you're looking at. Because for the manufacturer, he can look into things much deeper than you as a CPO. He can look into sensors. He can look into components. And I think to bring it to a certain level, that's the duty of a manufacturer. But as a CPO, you're going, let's say, on the second half of the depths, because you are throwing his product into an environment with a CPMS, maybe other applications, maybe other add-ons, and that's like handing over the stick to you that you have to monitor then maybe the best hardware you can get, but still in an environment you are operating as an operator. And that's why I think it's not obvious to say it's the one or the other, but the value chain is so long and so diverse, what we see from different CPOs, that you still have to have different hands working on that same issue.
And that's what we, one addition, what we do for especially CPOs, I mean, you must have the transparency, what are the top 10 errors, for example, that you can really approach the manufacturer and say, okay, I have seen that now at 10,000 chargers, and also select or also have impacting for your new purchasing process. Any other question? Yeah.
Something more technical, the models you use for your machine learnings and stuff, is it something pre-trained from the internet, or did you design your own architecture? And if you did, is it something you use serial techniques like recurrent neural networks, or are you using already attention layers to analyze the time series data? And second question,
sure.
Do you only look at OCPP data, or do you look into the internal logs of the pole too?
So first question, you would use different models. We have statistical models, we have neural networks. Yeah, I mean, we have developed on our own, but there are some approaches in other industries related to predictive maintenance. That was the first baby step to look at other industries and adapt it a little bit, but generally, we have everything developed on our own. And to the second question is, that's a long history. I started in the beginning with charge detail records because I didn't have any other data. And then I'm now using OCPP data, but that's not the end for me. I will continue integrating more data sources in the models. That's a super interesting topic. So, the question was if I am considering sensor data. Yes, I'm considering sensor data, and then we are also back with the manufacturers because that is not available at the moment for us. But we are talking to a couple of manufacturers, and we're more too open to integrate it, because the good thing is, I think with OCPP you can prediction for a certain time frame, and you can extend that prediction interval much more longer when you have sensor data, and then you also can break it down to really to component level as well. That is my next mission, yes. Thanks. Any other questions?
If not, you are invited later to visit our booth if you like, or have a drink with us tonight. And yes, thank you for coming. It was very interesting. Thanks for the questions.
Thank you very much.